Hey guys, this is the Real Quaid again with another Poison Gym Challenge video. This time I'm up against I'm Licking Cats. So if I take a quick look at his team here, his team is actually really balanced. I think of all the teams I've faced so far, his is probably the most balanced in terms of his type distribution and his role distribution. So I'm looking forward to a really good match here. I decided to lead with Toxicroak just because I feel like it's the safest bet. The only Pokemon that would outspeed Toxicroak would be Alakazam unless his Heatran was scarfed. And if he does send out Alakazam against my Toxicroak, I can Sucker Punch him and just finish him that way. So I decided to go with Toxicroak. Toxicroak did a pretty good job leading against Dragon Claw the other day, so I figured I'd go for it again. Little reward for him. So he sends out his Tyranitar right off the bat. I'm assuming mostly to get the sand going. So there's my Toxicroak. He immediately switches his Tyranitar, which I think is an interesting play. I'm assuming he was fearing some kind of strong fighting move, something like that. It makes sense, just because of that 4 times weakness. So he brings out the Dragonite, which allows me to set up the sub, which is what I was going for anyway. I knew I was going to outspeed Tyranitar anyway. So now we've got a Dragonite against Toxicroak here. I'm assuming he's going to have his Rainbow Scale, or I can never remember the name of that stupid ability, but I'm assuming it's got the damage reduction one, so I'm going to have to do what I can here. He's going to be at full health. So he's got some kind of substitute tanky roost, I'm assuming, is in there somewhere, Dragonite. So I'm going to come at him with an Ice Punch. Luckily, I still got the sub up. I'm at the advantage at this point. I'm going to be doing enough damage. I'm going to break the sub every time. And he knows that. I considered switching, instead of using Ice Punch this turn, to Focus Punch, because I kind of expected Ferrothorn to come in here. But instead of Ferrothorn, he actually switches to Venusaur, which I thought was an interesting decision, just because Venusaur actually shares that ice weakness with Dragonite, so he's still going to take super effective damage. It's not going to be as much as Dragonite would take, but he's still going to take some good damage from it, and probably not get a whole lot out of it. So Venusaur is able to survive with about a third of his HP left. We're both taking Sandstorm damage, of course, but we're both going to heal it off with our Black Sludges. Then after this, he comes at me with a Giga Drain, which I thought again was an interesting choice because Toxicroak resists it. I don't know if he wanted to get a little health bonus or not. He wasn't going to get a whole lot anyway, because at the most he's going to do a quarter of my health with the sub up. So he does restore some health, but it's not going to be enough. Ice Punch is going to finish the job on Venusaur here. Take him down pretty good. So far my choice of Toxicroak in the lead has done me pretty well. I feel like I had a good decision there. He's taken out a Venusaur, he's weakened Dragonite a little bit, scared away Tyranitar, so I know I can play some mind games with that maybe later on. This time he sends out Ferrothorn for real. I wasn't really too scared of Ferrothorn, so I decided I'm going to go for it. I'm going to set up the sub and see if I can get a Focus Punch. Maybe he'll use Spikes or Stealth Rock or something like that. He actually comes at me with Bulldoze, which I really didn't expect. And it's good that he had that, because it's going to do a lot of damage to pretty much everybody on my team. So his Tank Ferrothorn is actually going to be used for offense here. So I wasn't going to mess around with taking Bulldozes and all that stuff. Toxicroak wouldn't do a whole lot of damage to him anyway, and he'd be taking Iron Barb's damage, so I'm going to switch him out. Crobat, expecting another Bulldoze, which he does, so I get a free switch on that, which is great. Now I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen. I decide, for the safe play, I'm gonna assume that Ferrothorn stays in here and just go for the Super Fang. But he does withdraw Ferrothorn. He brings out his Tyranitar, so his Tyranitar is going to come in, losing half of his health right there, which is always nice. So here's a Super Fang. Now I'm assuming his Tyranitar is some kind of physical beast, because they usually are. So I'm thinking he's going to come at me with Stone Edge, which I think is a safe bet. So I figure I'm going to not risk my Crobat here. I'm going to switch to Nidoking and get some, because Nidoking is resistant to Stone Edge. He's going to be doing okay, and he's going to fire back with his super effective Earth Power. But he comes at me with Ice Beam, so he's got one of those goofy special attack fool you Tyranitars, which doesn't end up doing more damage in the long run. Obviously the physical attack Tyranitar is much more threatening, but he gets you on the switches with weird stuff like that. I did come at him with Earth Power, which is one of the decisions that I regret in this battle. I really expected him to switch to Dragonite, and he did, and if I would have come at him with Ice Beam, I probably would have knocked him out, and I would have been in much better shape. much later on. So that's one of, I think there's about 3 decisions in here that I really regret, and that's one of them. So he sets up the sub, I break it right away. I'm not going to mess around. I'm not going to risk. Dragon Ice can, they can be really threatening if you let them set up and sort of do what they want. So I'm just going to keep coming at him. He's not going to really heal anything because the leftovers is negated by the Sandstorm. So I'm going to come at him again with an Ice Beam. He comes at me with an Outrage, which I kind of expected a physical attack, but I didn't expect one like that. That's that powerful. So Nidoking's going to fall here. Again, if I had done Ice Beam on the switch, I would have. That's one. That won't happen again. I just need to trust my instincts, because there were several times in this match where I'm like, he's going to switch, and I went with the wrong attack, and it ended up costing me. So I switched to Muck to take the hit. I know he's going to be able to survive with a decent chunk of health left, and he survives with a little less than half, about 40% health. Dragonite gets confused, so I go for the stockpile, just to boost my defenses to prepare for whatever. I decide to come at him this next time with a Poison Jab, which is another decision I regret, because knowing that Dragonite is confused and that he won't be able to kill me in one shot next turn, I should have expected a switch for Ferrothorn. But he ended up switching instead to Heatran, which I thought was an interesting play. And that's another one. If I had, instead of using Poison Jab, which Heatran was immune to, if I had used Brick Break, like I had thought of using, expecting a switch, I would have been able to pop the balloon, do some more damage to Heatran, and actually probably by the end of the match, Heatran probably would have fallen if I had instead let off with Brick Break instead of this Poison Jab. So that's pretty much, that's decision number 2 that I'd like back. But Heatran comes at me with a Fire Blast. Muck's got a huge natural special defense. His base special defense, I think, is 110 or something like that. It's huge. Plus a stockpile bonus, he's going to not take as much damage as you think. So he comes at him with the Brick Break, he's able to pop the balloon, do a little bit of damage to him off of that. Again, if I had led with Brick Break, I would have been in much better shape than I am now. I'm able to survive just barely, so at this point Muck's not going to do much more than just, I pretty much have to sacrifice him at this point, because I'm not going to risk losing something to Heatran's really powerful Fire Blast on a switch, and then basically being down an extra Pokemon than I am right now. So I'll just let Muck die. I'm okay with that. He did his job. So I sent in the Drapion. This is the one decision that actually went right for me. I expected a switch, and sure enough, there it is. So he sends out Ferrothorn, which is actually exactly what I predicted, because I lead in with Swords Dance. And now I'm hoping to set up a Drapion sweep, maybe get some crits with the Sniper, do some really good damage. The nice thing about Earthquake with Drapion is that when you use Earthquake, you don't take damage from Rocky Helmet or Iron Barbs. So even though it's a neutral attack, it's actually Drapion's strongest attack against Ferrothorn, because Ferrothorn resists and is immune to the other 2. So I'll come at him with an Earthquake. I'm hoping for a crit at some point. His Bulldoze doesn't do a whole lot of damage, but it does reduce my speed, which is kind of costly, because at this point I pretty much have to continue to try to beat Ferrothorn with Drapion, because he won't be able to sweep the rest of the team because his speed is now lower. So another Earthquake comes in. Ferrothorn, I didn't get the crit that I wanted, so unfortunately I'm going to lose Drapion here to Ferrothorn. His his Earthquake crit chance is less than his other for his Night Slash and his Cross Poison, which is something that I wasn't thinking about during the battle. I actually forgot about it until right now. So I sent out Zoroark for the Night Daze, finish off Ferrothorn pretty quick. And now this is another decision that I regret, mostly just because it was a situation where I was like, is this really what's happening? So you'll see here, he sends out his Alakazam, and I'm thinking he's got to know it's Zoroark, because nobody in the Pokedex other than Smeargle actually learns Night Daze, so he has to know it's Zoroark, so he's going to come at me with a Focus Blast. And he comes at me with a Psychic. So at this point in the match, I'm like, that is either the best prediction I've ever seen or the silliest mistake I've ever seen, because he's able to one-shot my Crobat. If I had left Zoroark in, I would have taken no damage and just straight up finished Alakazam. So I'm like, this guy, he's got to be some kind of genius or something like that. So I send in Zoroark again, and he comes at me with Psychic again. So at this point, I'm like, crap, I just made a terrible, terrible mistake, because he actually thought this was Toxicroak. He didn't think it was Zoroark. So of course, I'm able to one-shot Alakazam pretty easily. Basically, the point of all that is I lost a full health Crobat in one swing, just because I thought I sort of outthought myself at this point. If I had kept Zoroark in, he would have just melted. I know this Dragonite is kind of beefy because he's got pack and sub and leftover, so I'm not worried about. I'm gonna outspeed him. I'm gonna finish him off here. Z's got some pretty strong special attacks, so of course Dragonite melts here. So he's down. His last two Pokemon are Heatran and I think Tyranitar are the last two left. So here comes Heatran. I know I hope I'm gonna outspeed him here, which I end up doing. I was hoping for a crit or some good damage or an accuracy loss or just something at this point because I don't think it's going to finish him. And I know Toxicroak's not going to be able to finish him. It doesn't do as much as I thought. If you'll remember the Poison Jab debacle from before, if Muck had led with a Brick Break instead of a Poison Jab, I think there's a strong possibility that Heatran would have fainted on that Night Days and it would have been Zoroark and Toxicroak against, against Tyranitar, which I would have been able to mop up because I would have just taken a free switch, finished. I would have let Toxicroak take the hit, and then basically reset Zoroark and finish him with a Focus Blast. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case, so there's not much Toxicroak can do against Heatran, and he just melts to the Fire Blast. So definitely was a learning experience for me. This was probably the closest and most exciting battle I've had to date in the Pokemon League, so a great match with Cats. Good job. I definitely made some mistakes that I hopefully will not be making again in the future. Basically, I sort of outthought myself several times. I made the safer plays instead of the ones that I sort of outpredicted myself. I thought, I know he's going to switch, but I'm going to play it safe, and he switched, and if I had, trusted my gut, I think it would have come out, the outcome would have been much different. So, didn't help that I was tired tonight, but excuses. Cats, you did a great job. It was a really exciting game. I learned a lot from it. I hope you did as well. And thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.